So, Keeper, you also emphasize that brothers' trauma is often marginalized. So, I would like to understand from you what steps can families take to ensure the voices of brothers are heard during the healing process?
So I understood it was not the mental challenge, it's the emotional challenge that we deal with. And the emotional challenge is something that is based in feeling that it requires community support. And when you don't get that, then the brothers have to try to figure out, okay, what am I dealing with? And then accept that we are in pain, that we are in trauma, which is incredibly difficult for a man. We don't do that well. So that is job one. And then understanding that it's a part of us. It's not going anywhere. It's simply not.
Folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording. And we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak. And here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So, folks, we are joined by Keeper Catran-Whitney. He's a pioneering advocate for brothers impacted by child sexual abuse. And you know, TGV is known for covering some bold topics which are not spoken. And this episode is to spread awareness on sexual abuse. And he emphasizes their voices, means brothers' voices, as crucial in the family healing process. And as a survivor himself, Keeper brings a deeply personal and professional perspective, shedding light on the profound emotional trauma experienced by brothers. And he is author of Helplessness, the first book in his powerful series From Helplessness to Hopefulness to Happiness. And he's a respected member of the Rain Speakers Bureau. And as we prepare to delve into our conversation on the topic at hand, breaking the silence, reclaiming strength after sexual trauma, here is an exciting twist as always. Let us tickle our guest brain. So, Keeper, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words. I'll mention a few. I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. If you're ready, let's get started.
Not a problem, Naveed, and not thinking much is my special.
All right, here comes my first word, curiosity.
Fun, I guess. Yes, curiosity is all about fun.
Future.
Present to start from the past to the present to forward. That's it.
Book.
Helplessness.
Resilience.
Resilience is all about hope, Brian.
And redemption.
Redemption is all about self-discovery.
Vulnerability.
You got to bring it real. You have to be willing to expose who you are. And if you could do that, you're well on your way to healing.
Courage.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's courage.
Universe.
Oh, that's big. Universe is exciting. That's what the universe represents to me. Possibility.
Yeah. And then role model.
I think you have to take yourself as a role model and go forward with that and not depend on someone else.
Awesome. And here comes the last one, success.
So success is about happiness. That's, ultimately your success is about your happiness, whatever that is.
Wonderful. I loved your unique responses, Keeper, and thank you for participating in the first rapid fire round so sportively. There's one more rapid fire round towards the end of the episode. Stay tuned.
All right, you got me on that one. Okay.
And Keeper, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice. How are you doing today?
Oh man, I am fantastic. Happy to be here with the Guiding Voice and you. It's a great day. It's a successful day. I'm here and I'm happy. Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being part of our journey. And let's begin with the first question. Who is your guiding voice?
My guiding voice is quite simply my children. They come at parents in a very real way. And it's not always in the way that we expect. It's not always in the way that we want, but they have a lot of guiding attributes in how they come at you. So it's my children. Yeah.
Okay. And now let's talk about your success mantra, as in top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far.
The top 3 things that have contributed to my success is understanding who I am. Vulnerability is all, because once I was able to do that, I was able to not run away from what I was afraid of. So that's the number one. The number two success trait for me is just speaking my mind and not being afraid of what someone else is going to think and not putting so much emphasis on their response, but being centered in who I am and letting that just play out. And the third most important thing for success for me is connection with other people. You can't do life on your own. It is required that you connect with other people. And so if you can do that, there's a very good chance that you will be successful in something. It might not be what you think, but success can just be in having great relations. So it's about connection with people.
Amazing. And the second one, I resonate very well. And in fact, I also speak my mind, not being afraid of what other things. That is a great coincidence.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yes. You understand. You've been through some things.
All right. So let's keep the ball rolling. So
Yeah.
your book series focuses on the journey from helplessness to happiness. So can you share what the first step out of helplessness looked like for you?
Helplessness, the book it's about the emotional trauma brothers experience once we learn our sisters have been sexually abused. And so the journey is about knowing that I am not allowed into a conversation, but then expected to participate in that conversation. And as a brother, when you're in that position, there is no voice for you. So I had to learn, Naveen, how to find a voice that would allow me to speak to my sisters who had told me that I could not participate in the conversation and through the process. And it was a very dark, it's a very difficult process that any brother who's been in that position will tell you. You have to find, your word in order to find, in order to make that journey a reality. So doing that, I was able to find my self-esteem and self-worth when I lost it. And I was able to get back to my sisters when I thought I had lost.
And Keeper, as someone who has experienced both abuse and witnessed its impact on your siblings, what unique challenges do brothers face in these situations that society often overlooks? In fact, it really comes to light.
The unique challenge for brothers, once we learn our sisters have been sexually abused, goes back to what I said, not being invited into a conversation, being expected to participate. When the topic comes up, when the exposure of sexual abuse in a family comes up, what usually happens, Naveed, is that the perpetrator is exposed and there's conversation. Those people who empowered that individual, be it one person or a group, they're exposed and there is conversation. Obviously, the victims, in my case, my four sisters, but who is not brought into the conversation are the brothers. And our challenge is, how do we overcome our trauma and our shock and our guilt and our disbelief and our anger and our betrayal and the stigma and the fear and the anxiety that is engulfing us once we learn what has happened? Because there are no tools for brothers. You could find tools for everyone else in the group. You could find tools for the predator. That might be incarceration. That might be counseling. The same holds true for those people who empowered. And obviously, there's plenty of support for women, but there's nothing for brothers. And so that's the unique challenge for brothers, is overcoming our trauma that we carry in silence.
I go with you. Like whenever there is a typical situation of this kind, usually support goes to the women. And people rarely listen to the man on the other side. I think the problem is universal. And
well, I was going to say even more unique than that, because when you talk about women, that could be, not necessarily brothers, but brothers in that situation. No one ever asks us, are we okay? No one ever asks us if we need to talk. Do we need anything? We are simply overlooked and left to try to figure things out on our own. And that's what makes my book incredibly unique. It is the first one of its kind from a brother's perspective. This is what we deal with.
And for 45 years, you lived in fear of discussing the abuse with your sister, right? How did that silence affect your mental health and relationships with them?
You did some investigating on me, my friend. 45 years of being told which is what happened. We learned about everything in a 10-minute span, my three brothers and I. We were hit with three emotional earthquakes. First being told that our stepfather had been molesting our sisters, and then being told by our mother she knew all about it. But the one that got us is the one that locked us down for 45 years, when our oldest sister, child number 3, said, you boys weren't affected and you can't talk about it. And so that immediately meant we could not seek any healing or understanding from our sister. And so the journey was knowing that I feel this sense of betrayal. How do I pick up the pieces of knowing that I just lost my family, literally? To
Mhm.
believe in they were one thing. And so the journey for 45 years, I had to figure out how to get back to my sister, which was, I thought was impossible.
So, Keeper, you also emphasize that brothers' trauma is often marginalized. So, I would like to understand from you what steps can families take to ensure the voices of brothers are heard during the healing process?
But I think the first step before you even get to the family is dealing with the brothers first.
Mhm.
I look at the original title of Helplessness was the mental health challenges brothers experience until I understood it was not the mental challenge, it's the emotional challenge that we deal with. And the emotional challenge is something that is based in feeling that it requires community support. And when you don't get that, then the brothers have to try to figure out, okay, what am I dealing with? And then accept that we are in pain, that we are in trauma, which is incredibly difficult for a man. We don't do that well. So that is job one. And then understanding that it's a part of us. It's not going anywhere. It's simply not. And trying to run from it, that doesn't help. Trying to hide, trying to push responsibility onto someone else, that doesn't help because we know when we are alone in those dark moments, we know that it is all on us. And so that's one of the incredibly unique things for brothers. And this sort of thing crosses race, religion, politics, wealth, economics. It crosses waters. It crosses borders. It's everywhere. And this is quite tremendous.
I can understand, I think, how deep the problem is. And let's move to the next one. So, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, is a recurring theme in stories like yours, right? So, how has your experience with PTSD shaped your outlook on life? And what methods have you specifically found helpful in managing it?
When I first heard about what happened, I was about 15 years old, and all the information came at me and my brothers all at once. And we were in the throes of PTSD from anxiety and fear. It's just at that time in 1977 when I learned, I had no idea what PTSD was. It wasn't something I was talked about anywhere. And so, because I never heard of it, I didn't even know how to deal with it. That was the scary part. So, the impact of the PTSD meant that any relationship that I had with a woman or a girl was going to be driven by the knowledge of knowing what happened to my sister. It just changed my complete outlook of who I was as a man, as a young boy growing into a man. And without support systems in place, which there are none, and even today, there's nothing for brothers, even today, specific to us. We have to try to figure these things out on our own being. And so the PTSD is and I recognize it. It's part of my DNA. It's part of my memory. It's you can try to tap it down and run from it. Doesn't help. You got to hit it head on. You got to deal with it. And it's not always an easy thing to do. So how it has impacted me is I try to be more vigilant. I try to be more aware of who I am in any given situation so that I self-regulate in a way that's impactful in a positive way for everyone, not just myself.
Got it. And this has been emotional conversation, and it's time for us to add some spice and get the excitement running.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
So I'm going to kick off the second rapid fire round, Keeper, and which will have a set of intriguing questions just to spice up the episode. If you're ready, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, here comes the first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Happiness. Happiness. Ultimately, that's where you want to get to. And so that would be the one word. And it's one of those things that I think would be subliminal for people, but constantly seeing the word happiness, in a world with a lot of conversation around, hate and things like this, happiness is a word that we need to see a lot more.
And can you describe yourself in just one word?
I guess courageous.
Courageous. Okay. And what is your favorite way to unwind after a stressful day?
This was easy because it's the same thing that I had done for the past 20 years, almost every day. I listen to Harry Potter. Helps me unwind. I have listened to Harry Potter on audio almost every day since 2000. Helps me unwind. I get to just relief. So, it's Harry Potter, man.
And what is one book that profoundly changed your perspective on life?
I think the book where I used the title in an answer for you was, I believe, 1995, Dr. Susan Jeffers' Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I was going through a lot of the trauma when I came across the book. And that book was about, look, the only way to get to is to go through. And you have to feel the fear, period. and not run from it. Feel it and do it anyway. So that's the book. I constantly come back to that book.
And what is the first thing you do when you feel overwhelmed?
I sit down and I just be still. I just take a deep breath, close my eyes, try to settle myself and relax. That's what I do.
Okay, good one. And 3 words that describe your journey so far.
Okay. Helplessness, hopefulness, happiness.
That's a easy one.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but that's it. That's the journey.
Love it, love it, love it. You nailed it. And here comes the last one for the second rapid fire round. So, what is one thing you wish more people understood about child sexual abuse survivors?
What I would hope people would understand most is there are men who are innocent, and not all men are guilty through gender proximity. Oftentimes, we can be viewed as, well, you're a guy, and so you're part of the problem, and that's simply because of what's between our legs. That's usually what's between the legs of the predator. That is not true, and so there are innocent men. There are more innocent men than there are guilty men by far. And so look at it from that perspective first.
Oh, that's a good one. And after that amazing second rapid fire round, let's flip back to the mainstream and Keeper. Many
I got to
men.
give you some rapid fire questions.
You can.
Yeah,
You can put me on spot.
all right.
All right. So here comes my last but one question. Like many men struggle opening up about emotional trauma, especially when it stems from family abuse, right? So what advice would you give to men who feel trapped in silence and fear?
I think we need to understand the difference between emotional health and mental health. Oftentimes we are in a discussion of mental health. And I think just for most people, that's not the problem initially. That ends up being the problem later. But particularly for men, we need to understand the emotional health issue, because emotional health is about feelings, it's about shared experience, it's about community. And when we as men can't get that, those sort of support system, we go into here into our head. And it's not always a safe place for us, because we start to become logically, we start to think logic. And logic means I need to do this, no questions asked. But we're alone and we're in isolation. So when we cannot get our emotional support, that we go to a mental place, and that's not always a good place. And I learned that firsthand when I couldn't get my emotional support met after learning about my sister, when I almost murdered my stepfather for what he did. I was in a mental place. So as a man, we need to be very careful when we go to a mental health physician. We need our emotional health support taken care of. Otherwise, it could be very, very dangerous.
Amazing. And I loved all your candid responses. And it was really a pleasure talking to you, Keeper. And how is your experience being hosted on The Guiding Voice?
It's been fun. It's been different, like, quite frankly. I haven't had a conversation like this with anyone. It's been a pleasure, quite frankly. I didn't have to go into the full story, which, once I tell the whole story, it ends up being an hour, 2-hour conversation. This has been an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, sure. And I would love to host you again and dive deep into this topic in future. So definitely, doors are always open to come back.
I would love to have a much broader conversation around the subject as well with you, because you're aware. Where are you located?
I'm in India.
Yes. And so the topic that I talk about runs pretty deep over in India, just like it does here in the United States. So if you ever want to have a broader conversation on what this is about, would look forward to it. But with this caveat, I get to ask you rapid fire questions.
Please go ahead.
We'll just say that for the next time.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so thank you so much, Keeper, for joining me today, and look forward to hosting you again in future. And definitely, it was a great emotional conversation. All right.
You take care. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sure. All right, so friends, that was our episode with Keeper Catran-Whitney. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. If you have enjoyed the conversation and found it useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV, The Guiding Voice. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. Now it's time for us to hop into the trivia segment. And today I thought of presenting you 2 lesser known facts about child abuse. First is, siblings of victims often experience secondary trauma. When a child is abused, their siblings can experience deep emotional trauma as well, even if they weren't directly abused. And this secondary trauma can manifest as guilt, helplessness, anger, or confusion. And in many cases, siblings are overlooked in the healing process, which can exacerbate long term emotional challenges. Second fact is, most child abusers are familiar to the victim. Contrary to the common belief that child abusers are strangers, research shows that around 90% of abusers are known to the child, and they are often trusted figures within the family or community, which makes it harder for the child to disclose the abuse and for authorities to intervene early. Likewise, if you know any interesting facts related to child abuse, or if you have any stories to share around this, I would love to hear from you. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can comment there, or if you have found this episode on some social media platforms or audio platforms, you can comment there as well. So folks, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember, the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you on the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all.